He wasn't born with the name. He earned it. Jump by jump, fight by fight, scar by scar. From the skies over Panama, where men dropped through chaos into fire, to the sands of Iraq, where every sunrise meant another test of survival. He's lived what most only watch in the movies and never sleep through again. He's seen brothers fall, enemies rise, and the line between courage and madness blur in the smoke. He's led men through the kind of darkness that leaves no souvenirs, just ghosts that never stop talking. This isn't a war story. It's a confession of blood, of brotherhood, of what it costs to wear the name Bullet. On this episode of Tactical Tequila Podcast with your host, Matt Wilson. If you enjoy the show, hit the like button, subscribe, and share it to your social media platforms. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show. Welcome back, everyone. Matt with Tactical Tequila Podcast. And on tonight's show, it's a very special show to me. I have one of my former platoon sergeants, one of the best leaders that I ever had in the military on the show tonight, Ron Bullet Underwood. He's stared death in the face from the Panama skies to Iraq's killing heat. He's led men through chaos. He's carried ghosts that never left. He's proof that courage isn't clean. It's loud, it's bloody, and it's paid for in scars. This isn't about war stories. It's about what war leaves behind. Ron, welcome to the show. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Matt, I'm so very happy and honored to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
It's my pleasure, and I owe a lot to you for the leader that I became in the military, because as a young NCO, you were very stern and you were direct and you were always that pull no punches type of leader. And I always enjoyed that about you, and I always enjoyed you leading the way that you did.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I was very fortunate that I had so many great people to work with during my career, you being very high among that list.
And I appreciate that. I just want to kind of dive into things. Now, you have the nickname Bullet, and I know that a lot of people don't really know how you got this nickname. So we're going to dive into how you got the nickname on the show. What I really want to start out with is, what did it cost you in order to earn the name Bullet, and what does it mean to you now, all these years later?
Well, as far as what it cost me was probably a good 20 pounds of ridicule. You know, I'll be honest with you, Matt, that I did not tell people in the military how I got my nickname. And the reason I did not tell them is because when I first got it, it was very embarrassing. And I was embarrassed to be called. See, my nickname was not originally Bullet. It was Bullet Head.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know if you remember Sergeant Major Gus Charette, but he would call me Bullet Head until the day he retired after 30 years in the Army. And he was the only one that continued to call me Bullet Head. Funny thing, nobody ever asked about it. It was weird, but I didn't tell anybody because nobody would believe me. when I first when I first got the nickname, when the head dropped off and they just called me Bullet, uh, I was happy. That's a pretty cool nickname. Nobody, talks smack about it. And but I was still embarrassed about how I got it. And then when I grew up in the Army, because I got it as a private, when I grew up in the Army and I was an NCO, and uh, I found out there were so many stories about how I got my nickname that it was it was unbelievable. I mean, some of the stories that I heard were that I caught a bullet in my teeth, that I shot somebody in Panama, that um, that I had been shot, uh, that I had been shot multiple times, and that it didn't phase me. That just crazy, crazy stories. Uh, so then I didn't tell anybody because I honestly didn't think they'd believe me if I told them the truth. Uh, and then after a while, it kind of became kind of a matter of pride. I'll be honest. Uh, in 1988, in December, I went to NTC, and I was a driver in a truck, and my gunner was a guy named Chris Ludwig. And we went out to NTC, and right before we left, um, I had not yet started cutting my own hair. Um, all the haircuts you ever saw me with, I cut my own hair, and I got pretty good at it. But prior to that, I didn't cut my own hair. And I went in and I got a flat top down on Yadkin Road at Cat's Barber Shop. Well, they gave me a Ranger cut, which was basically a half-inch mohawk down the center of my head. Now, you never saw me bald, Matt, but my head kind of comes to a peak in the middle. All right. I'm not a pretty bald guy. All right. And so my haircut looked pretty messed up. So this is back when I was in division, and I went out to NTC, and I took my helmet off at one point, and Ludwig looked at me and goes, "Who the hell gave you that haircut? Your head looks like a bullet." And he started calling me Bullet Head, and I hated it, absolutely hated it. And I was pissed off. I tried to get him to quit telling me that or calling me that, but he outranked me, and there was nothing I could do. And it got picked up, and the whole company started calling me Bullet Head. And then somehow the head just dropped off, and they started calling me Bullet. And I started to mature in the Army. I gained in rank. I became a sergeant in division, and uh, just before we went to Panama, and nobody called me Bullet Head anymore except Gus Charette, because he was always an asshole. God, I love that guy. But that's that's how I got it, and you know, I'm 60 years old now, and I guess it doesn't matter how I got the nickname, but that's how it happened. And
Well,
it cost me ridicule.
and well, and I can tell you that some of the stories that you mentioned, I heard myself, and I know others have heard it, and have always probably wondered. So thanks for sharing that.
I'm sorry it wasn't what you wanted to hear. I know you wanted
No,
it to be something special. It wasn't.
I mean, that's as special as it comes because it's stuck with you your whole life after that.
It did. In fact, everybody I know still calls me Bullet, except my family.
And I bet you half of those people don't know exactly why you were named Bullet.
No, none of them do. I mean, all of the civilians that I've become friends with, they all call me Bullet because they heard somebody else call me Bullet. The nickname stuck.
So when you first raised your right hand in order to enlist, what part of the man had to die before the soldier could be born?
My feelings. My I was a pussy when I joined the army, Matt. Oh God, for the first year, year and a half I was in the army, I was I wore my feelings on my sleeve, and I had to learn that to show feelings was to show weakness. And the folks that I was in the army with in the 82nd back in the 80s, if you had any weakness whatsoever, they were going to jump on it like sharks on blood. And I'll be honest with you, uh, I went home many nights driving back to, driving back home crying because I could not believe that people could be so cruel, you know. Uh, and then I finally hardened my skin and realized that that's what I needed to do if I was going to be successful. And you know, now I've started to get back in touch with my feelings, but for quite a while, I did not possess any feelings that I was aware of.
And that's always been one big thing about the military, and not only the military but law enforcement as well, is that if you've ever shown feelings, it is the sign of weakness. And I think that's why there's been such a high suicide rate among military and law enforcement as well. I think that's why the suicide rate is so high, because we've always been ingrained to, oh, if you show feelings, you're a pussy, or you're not worth going to combat, and I don't want to be next to you, and these types of things, when that could be the furthest from the truth. We're all human.
I couldn't agree more. Um, the I mean, it does take a hardening. It does take a hardening of your heart, of your sensibilities, to be able to do the things that we did, to be put in the situations that we were in, um, and and survive, much less be successful and thrive. But to denigrate folks for wanting to show that they have feelings puts people in a situation where I'm a 60-year-old man and I'm finally starting to learn how to be a real person and not the the 10-foot tall and bulletproof that I was forged into in the military.
Would you say that there's ever been a single moment that stripped away every illusion that you ever had about combat, or what combat really means?
December 20th, 1989. I was sitting with my back to a fence, chain link fence at Tucuman Airport, in Panama. I was absolutely exhausted. It was about 8 hours after we jumped in, and I had gone through every emotion I think that I possessed in those 8 hours multiple times, and I was exhausted mentally, emotionally, and physically. I felt like I couldn't even get up, and yet we had to we had to get up. We had to continue our mission. We didn't know where anybody was. I I, I had only met up with one person from our unit, and that was Sergeant Major Charlie Yos. He was our provost sergeant major at the time. Became our brigade sergeant major, battalion and brigade sergeant major in the 90s. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was a brand new buck sergeant. I'd only been a buck sergeant for about 16 days. Um, I was put into a platoon because I had been in headquarters platoon. And when Panama went down, I was a sergeant, so they made me a team leader in our GS platoon. And then 3 days after we jumped in, my platoon sergeant got sent to the rear, and my squad leader took over the platoon. And now I have like 20 days as a buck sergeant, and I'm the squad leader of a squad, and I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. And but that morning after we jumped in, uh, all my all of the romantic notions that I had about combat were stripped away, and all I had left was the fact that it was nothing but ugly and grueling and dirty and tiring.
Would you say that's probably the first time that you had questioned whether you would make it back home? And if so, what pulled you through it?
Um, it's not the first time I questioned if I'd make it back home. What pulled me through it was my training, my indoctrination. Uh, when I was in the 82nd, we honestly believed that just because we had these wings on our chest, that we could whip any 10 ordinary legs. We honestly believed that, because we were indoctrinated to believe that we were superior soldiers. Um,
I mean, that's the airborne way.
it is the airborne way, but it's not true. And I've had my ass whipped by plenty legs to prove it. Um, but I think that the main reason that the main thing that helped me get through it was I didn't have an alternative. It was do or die. You just have to, and uh, it's amazing what you can do when you don't have an alternative.
I agree 100%. Is there one order or mission brief that still replays in your mind as if it happened yesterday?
Order or mission brief. Uh, I ran through the questions that you had, and orders that I received or gave?
Either or, something that still resonates with you today.
I will tell you that as far as mission briefs are concerned, on December 19th, 1989, we were at Fort Bragg in PHA. That's the personnel holding area for those of you that don't habla. And all the NCOs got called to a classified briefing. They called it a classified briefing, but shit, I'd been a buck sergeant for like 16 days at that point, so it's not like, I was special. And they outlined Torrijos Airport, Tucumán Airport, whatever the hell you want to call it. And they showed us a satellite photo, and the photo it showed an 8-foot chain link fence that went all the way around the airport, and it went into the jungle. It was all the way around, and it was massive. The airport was massive, and so this fence stretched for miles, and there was no break in it except for the gates. And I was standing there with another NCO named Mike Salmon, and Mike looked at me and he said, "Hey, you see this line?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "That's a 8-foot chain link fence that goes all the way around the airport." And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Wouldn't it suck if you landed outside that?" Well, there's a reason that sticks in my mind, Matt, because the Rangers, when they went in, their pilots held their line directly over the DZ, and every single Ranger hit where they were supposed to hit, right? When the 82nd came in at 0210, we were leaving an ice storm at Fort Bragg and jumping into, obviously a tropical jungle in Panama. Our pilots did not hold the center line on the DZ when they started taking ground fire. And nobody from the initial 6 planes that went in hit the DZ. There were 22 birds in all. The first 6 or 7, they could only de-ice 7 at a time, and so we left on the first 6 birds, and I happened to be on the 6th chalk, and none of us hit the DZ. In fact, some guys landed up to 3 miles away from the DZ. Out in town. Yes, out in town, like something from The Longest Day. It was incredible. And I landed in the jungle. I tried to lower my Alice pack, but back then we had an H harness, different from the single point release that you jumped. And we had 2 18-inch attaching straps, and you had to reach down and grab both of those and pull them up at the same time. And if you pulled them both up at the same time, then theoretically they were supposed to release at the same time and drop your Alice pack on your lowering line. Well, my Alice pack weighed 90 pounds, and because of all the ammunition, the spare barrel, a law, all the pyro and grenades that I had, and one of my attaching straps did not pop, and it bound, and it was almost impossible to get one to pop once it bounced. So it swung between my legs, and again, for those of you that don't habla, if your Alice pack swings between your legs and you hit the ground, you got a good chance of breaking both your legs.
Yep.
I was able to get it out in front of me, but I had to ride it in, and I landed, thank God, in a tiny little hole in the middle of a copse of trees. And to be quite honest with you, I landed real nice and easy. My shoe caught on the trees, and I just kind of laid down, and I didn't hit hard at all. But I did land on top of my weapon, and I couldn't get it out of my weapons case quickly enough because we jumped weapons cases. And so I was scared to death. So all I did was grab my 9mm. Thank God I had one, and pull that out. And I just sat there waiting, trying to figure out whether or not I was going to, somebody was going to come shoot me. I landed about a click outside that fence. When I got to the fence, I tried to get underneath it. I tried to climb over it, and I couldn't. So I took out a grenade and got down behind a stump about 20 meters back, and I threw it, and it blew enough of the bottom of the fence out to where I could push my Alice pack through and then climb through, and then continue my mission to link up with the rest of the company. But that was absolutely my most memorable mission brief because Mike Salmon jinxed me and said, "Wouldn't it suck if you landed outside that fence?" Well, I did.
We've definitely all been there, not necessarily in combat, but for sure on the drop zone. Those of us that are airborne, we've definitely landed outside of where we've been positioned to land. And in talking about jumping and being airborne, take me to the door of the aircraft when you were jumping into Panama. What was it? Fear, adrenaline, or would you say silence of the sound of the aircraft all at once? Like, walk me through it.
At the door of the aircraft,
Yeah.
anger, 100% rage. We were frozen. We sat in an ice storm, stood outside the aircraft in our parachutes with no snivel gear on. I had a scarf. I was wearing nothing but BDUs. I had a scarf, and I had my black leather shells, black leather gloves. And that was more than a lot of guys had. When we got on the aircraft, I stuffed them into my cargo pockets. There were some guys who didn't listen, and they ended up wearing their thermal underwear and snivel gear and stuff like that. And they ended up becoming heat casualties when we got down there. So we're frozen, damn near got frostbite, because they're de-icing the planes and we can't get on them, but they still got us standing out behind them waiting to load. Well, they're trying to get 2,200 paratroopers down to Panama, as quick as possible because we got a timeline to meet, and we weren't meeting it. I get on the aircraft. I'm carrying the heaviest Alice pack I've ever carried in my life. I weighed a $153, and I'm toting a 90-pound Alice pack. I've got a spare barrel, like I said, 60 ammo. I've got all my M16 ammo, my 9mm ammo, grenades, smoke, incendiaries, a law. Also had a change of clothes, just in case I might want to do that. And 3 MREs. That's what we jumped in with. And my legs were completely numb sitting on the aircraft. They'd gone completely numb. I couldn't feel them. I was freezing to death. When the order came to stand up, I couldn't get out of my seat. The Advanced Airborne School provided safeties for the jump. Normally, combat jumps don't have safeties, but they had the Advanced Airborne School provide safeties, and the safety pulled me to my feet. So once I got to my feet, I could hardly stand because my legs were numb. They said to hook up, and I couldn't reach the anchor line cable because my Alice pack was so heavy that I just couldn't stand up enough to reach the anchor line cable. And so I hooked up. The safety came and hooked me up, and put the safety wire through, and I stood there, or bent double damn near. I didn't have any bite at all in my my static line. I was just holding on to my static line, and that was it. When they I was praying that they would just say go. That's all I could think of. The fear was gone. I was scared to death when we were boarding the plane and beforehand. By then, I was so tired. I was so angry. I was so cold. Everything was, it just sucked. It just sucked, And instead of embracing the suck and digging it, I kind of let it rule me, and all I wanted was off that aircraft. That's all I wanted. And when I got to the door, that's all I could think of was freedom. Jumped out. We jumped out at 475, and then I'm thinking to myself, there's lights over there, but not below me. That looks like the drop zone, but not where I'm going. And then I saw fireflies in the air, and I thought, that's crazy, fireflies in the air. And then I realized all the fireflies were moving one way, and I realized they weren't fireflies. And then I hit the ground because we were only in the air for a few seconds. You've jumped, you know what I'm talking about, the from 475, you ain't in the air very long, and I was loaded down pretty heavy, so I dropped pretty quick. And but that's what I was thinking of at the door.
Would you say that's the most chaotic and maybe unbelievable or even surreal moment from Panama?
Not even close.
No?
Nope. About 4 days into Panama, we set up the division EPW cage, and so grunts and our MPs that were sliced out to the battalions would bring EPWs to our cage. Well, then we had to take them to the Corps cage because Corps had set up a big EPW, like field prison. And
for those that don't know, EPW is enemy prisoner of war.
Thank you. Sometimes I forget that folks don't know our nomenclature. I was chosen to do an EPW transfer, and I had 16 EPWs that I was supposed to take from Torrijos Airport over to Balboa. It was supposed to be a 30-minute flight on a Chinook. We drop them off, 30-minute flight back, good to go, right? Well, we got off in Balboa, and I get all the EPWs off the airplane, and I asked the crew chief on the Chinook, where's the cage? Because we're in the middle of the city, right? They literally landed in the middle of the city. And I said, where's the cage? And he goes, he points right there, that at the stadium at the gate, right? So I'm there with another buck sergeant who is he's a mechanic, right? And his name was Edmonds, but we all called him Junior, right? So because my squad was made up of 3 MPs and 3 headquarters personnel, because when we left Bragg, we took the whole headquarters company, or excuse me, headquarters platoon, and put MP brassards on them and said, y'all are MPs now, because we didn't have enough MPs. And so it was just me and him. And so I went up to the gate. When I walked up to the gate, the helicopter left. And I'm standing there with my dick in my hand trying to figure out what the hell's going on, right? So I go to the gate, and I find out that that's not an EPW cage no more. That's now a refugee camp. So now I'm standing in the middle of Balboa with 16 EPWs and 2 MPs and no communication and no support and no chopper. So luckily I looked down the road, and there was a MP vehicle sitting on the road about 100 meters down from where we were. I walked down there and I asked them for their to use their radio. We couldn't reach my unit, so I told them what the situation was, and they said, hold on a second. They got a hold of their headquarters, and they got me a deuce and a half. And the deuce and a half come, and we picked them up, and they told us to take them to this EPW cage. So we take them to this EPW cage, which was across the Panama Canal from where we were. And we get to the EPW cage, and that EPW cage has now been turned into a first line processing station, and they can't take our EPWs because they've already been processed. So we get directions from there and take them to another place, and they're no longer an EPW cage. So finally, we find out where the Corps MPs, the 16th MP Brigade MPs are holding. I think it was a 6-5 at the time. We're holding the cage. We finally get there. We went to Fort Fort, shit. I can't remember the name of the fort, but we showed up there and they didn't have a cage there, and they told us it's down the road a piece. So we went down the road and we finally dropped them off. This was on Christmas Eve, 1989. So we go into the mess hall and we have dinner. I left in the morning. We had not eaten. None of our EPWs had eaten, right? Because we didn't have anything because it was supposed to be a 30-minute ride. I got some MREs for the EPWs at the first line process station. So we had dinner. Now we have to get to Howard Air Force Base. That's where it was, Howard Air Force Base. Now we got to get there to try and get a ride back home to Cuman, which is on the other side of the country, damn near, right? So we go there and we went to see the battalion commander, Colonel Sullivan, Mike Sullivan. He didn't have access to a chopper, and he couldn't give us any transportation at that time. Told us to go over to the Corps headquarters. So we went over to the Corps headquarters, and I just happened to see a guy that had been in division with us. He was a general's driver now. And so he asked his boss if they could get us back to Torrijos. Well, the boss said, yep, but this is what's going to happen. There's an attack on Torrijos Airport going on right now by 200 Panamanian Defense Forces, right? And you guys are going to pull security for the captain who's going to deliver the defense plans from Corps, right? We're like, okay, this is like, some deep blue hero shit right here, So we go into the J7 to get a briefing, and they got the helicopter pilots in there, and they're like, look, if this place is under fire, we're going to come in like this from this angle. We're going to fly this way. We're going to come up, and we're not going to land. We're just going to hover. You guys are going to jump. As soon as we stop, you're going to jump, right? We're like, yeah, we got this, right? We're all that. Oh, right? So we all load onto the aircraft, right? We fly over Panama City, which you weren't supposed to fly over Panama City. And I asked the gunner, I go, aren't you guys not supposed to fly over Panama City because of taking ground fire? He goes, I wish a motherfucker would, let's do this, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to die. My ass is hanging off the side of a Black Hawk or a Huey, off the side of a Huey. And we got, cause we got crates of ammo in it, right? We finally get there. The guy comes in just like he said. He swoops in, right? We all jump off. This captain and this lieutenant, they got the battle plans, right? Me and Junior are right next to him. We're running up to division headquarters. We're just there, man. It's like super high speed, super, this is deep blue hero shit. My commander is standing outside division headquarters, the division TOC, with his blouse off, smoking a cigar. Wade F. Dennis, right? God, I love that man. What a leader he was. I run up and I go, sir, What's going on with the attack? He's like, what attack? Sir, we just came from Corps headquarters. They said there's this big attack, you know? And he goes, ain't heard anything about an attack, Bullet. Everything's fine. And there wasn't an attack. That just shows the fog of war, and that was absolutely the craziest situation I've ever been in my entire military career.
So now, fast forward to Iraq. When you first landed in Iraq, did it feel like a new war to you, or was it basically the same ghost kind of wearing different faces?
It was a totally different war, totally new. I didn't go to Gulf One. I was in Germany at the time, and I was in an honor guard MP unit. And they would not let us go. I harangued the PERSCOM folks so much that the PERSCOM sergeant major actually told me that I wasn't allowed to come back. When I got to Iraq, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea that kind of war was totally alien to me. I had been on numerous deployments to Haiti and Honduras, Panama, and they were all dangerous deployments. But they were all low intensity conflicts, nothing like what we did in Iraq. And I had never been to the Middle East before. I didn't know the people. The only thing that was the same was our training and our discipline and knowing what to do in every situation that we came across as far as what we should do, you know. But as far as understanding the war and the combat of that type, I was just as much at a loss as everybody else.
What would you say the hardest part about leading soldiers who had never seen real combat before would be?
Trying to be the rock that they can rely on. When you really have no idea what's going on. The hardest part is instilling and preserving confidence in soldiers that their leadership knows what they're doing, that their leadership knows what they're doing. I understood how to run a platoon, but I didn't know what was going to happen. I don't know if you ever heard about it, Matt, but when we got to Iraq in 03 or to Kuwait in 03, when we got our radios, we didn't have any Mark 19 ammo. We had Mark 19s, but we didn't have any ammo yet. Our commander wanted me to send a squad from where we were in Kuwait up to Baghdad, up MSR1, up to Baghdad to do a route recon. And I said, my lieutenant was down at the port arranging for the rest of our equipment to arrive. So that I was called in to the commander, and she said that she wanted us to take on that mission. And I said, yes, ma'am. I said, I'll need, my full complement of Mark 19 ammunition, full complement of 60 ammunition. I'd like to request, an extra 50% on both. and I'll need all of the call signs and frequencies for the infantry, the landowners, the infantry units on the way up. And she said, well, you don't have Mark 19 ammo, and I can get you the 60 ammo, but we don't have any of the call signs or frequencies of the folks that, that are there. I said, so what's going to happen if if something happens, our guys don't have any support, and we don't have our primary weapon system. And she said, well, they're just going to have to make do. And I said, okay, that's not acceptable. And she asked me what I meant by that's not acceptable. And I said, I mean, I'm not ordering a squad to go do that. And she said, I just gave you the order to do it. And I said, then find another platoon sergeant. That's how much we didn't know, Matt. So when I say trying to be the rock that my soldiers needed in a situation where I didn't know what was going on, that was the hardest part about leading soldiers into a new type of combat like that.
Now, having been there a couple of times, was there ever a day in Iraq that you ever realized that you'd left a piece of yourself there for good?
Yes, when Jeremy Campbell died, he wasn't in my platoon. He was in 4th platoon. But I really liked that kid, and I was extremely fortunate. I was extreme, and you understand this better than anybody, that I did not have any control over who lived and died on those missions. I didn't have any control. I was extremely fortunate that I never lost a soldier in all the combat deployments that I made. That is not a testament to me. It's a testament to fate, to God, good fortune, whatever you want to call it.
On the lighter side of that, I would like to say that first platoon was always the best platoon.
In 2005, or 2004, 2005, you're absolutely correct.
Even 2003, when I first got there, I would still hands down put first platoon against any of the other platoons we had.
You would have lost those hands and the arms attached to them.
I don't know. I mean, we had Slayton at one point. We had Billy East at one point.
Where did they come from?
Hey, it doesn't matter where they
3rd
came from. It's
platoon.
where they were. It's where they were.
That's where they were trained. So what do you think? What do you think the cradle of that training was like?
All I'm saying is those leaders, whether they were birthed from you or they had other leadership before, but I will say that I was blessed during my tenure in the 108th, and I had some outstanding leaders.
You had incredible leaders in 1st platoon during OIF1, and you were blessed with even more in OIF3. Glenn Slayton is and remains one of the greatest NCOs I've ever worked with. That I would put my son's life in his hands. And Same thing with Javier Eccles, and
Yep.
the same thing with Melissa Spradlin. Well, it's well known that I had my doubts about her. In fact, I told her I didn't want her. But she proved me wrong. She saved lives, not only with her leadership, but with her own personal skills in as a combat lifesaver. And I'll tell you what, I've never been so, you have asked me what about situations that revealed something about myself. Well, her uh, her performance in OIF3 was absolutely something that revealed to me that I was not infallible and I could be wrong. And I'm glad I was wrong because the the and the team leaders that you guys had, you yourself, I mean, just absolute life takers and heartbreakers. You know, I mean, you were 10 foot tall and bulletproof. You know, I mean, you were who I wanted to be when I grew up.
I
You
don't know
know,
about that. I was trying to emulate you.
and for the audience, don't this guy don't talk a whole lot of smack about himself. All right, I've been watching his podcast, but I'm telling you, all right, he was all that in a bag of potato chips. All right.
Listen, I will say that, I was the only one on, the promotion board that got 100%,
Yeah.
a perfect board,
Smoked it.
during deployments.
You smoked it. And
Yeah.
that gave me a lot of shit talking, brother. All the other platoon sergeants, oh yeah, I talked massive shit.
Being a leader, and you get successes and you get losses, but what's the hardest leadership call that you've ever had to make when every option came with a cost?
Every single leadership decision, every option comes with a cost. Every single one.
But which one was the hardest?
There's not one. Every day that I had to tell you guys to go outside the wire when I didn't go with you because it wasn't my job, making those decisions, deciding who went, deciding what squad got what mission. When you literally have the power of life and death over people by the decisions that you make, every single decision is untenable. You have to send someone, you make that decision, and you live with the consequences. There is not one decision that I made, not one call that I made that I feel is more important than another. Some people I grew closer to than others. So there was a personal cost to sending them out. Um, it, it's it's never easy. Uh, it's just something that you have to do. I'm sorry if that's not um, an epic answer, but
And I'm not looking for an epic answer there, and to kind of caveat off of that, how do you carry the names of the ones who never made it home, and how heavy does it weigh on you now?
I carry them by remembering them and honoring them. That's the only thing that I can do for them. To be forgotten is the worst possible outcome for any warrior. And so when I look at the people that I've lost over the years in the military and out, I carry their loss in myself by remembering them, by talking about them, by reminding people of what they did and why they're deserving of being remembered.
Now, we've talked about your military career and the deployments that you've been on. Kind of want to transition now into civilian life. Transitioning, was it harder for going to combat, or was it harder coming home from it?
Coming home. Combat had a rigidity that was comforting. The military has a rigidity, has a it has a stabilizing routine to it. In combat, on deployments, you fall into that routine so easily, and it's mechanical and it's comforting because you understand what's coming next. Even in situations where you don't know what's going to happen, you still understand what to do next. Your training, your training keeps you focused, and all of the things that a warrior is trained to bring onto themselves, their focus, their hypervigilance, their uh, attention to detail. All of those things are they're like a warm blanket you can wrap around yourself. When you come home, you don't have that in and of itself, and you have to figure out how to navigate other people's expectations, other people's understanding or misunderstanding of what's going through your head, whereas your brothers and sisters always know what's going through your head on a deployment.
As the uniform came off, what part of Bullet would you say has been the hardest to let go?
The role, the persona. When I retired, I was in a wheelchair, and it took me a number of years to get out of it, but I did. And after that, I went back to work, and I went back to work at a civilian company during my training, and it was about 85% female and almost all civilian, meaning non-veterans. And I did not know how to act. I was honestly terrified going to work in an office. Um, at the end of my training, they gave me an ID card, and they gave me this ID card holder with a spring thing attached to it with a
The retractable lanyard.
retractable, lanyard, yeah, and it was this string, and when they gave it to us, I was still in my training, and I'm sitting there, and I'm pulling it back and forth, and I looked at everybody else in my class, and it's all women except for the instructor. It's a guy, right? And he's a civilian, never been in the military. And I'm pulling it back and forth like this, and I go, "Hey, you could make a garrote out of this thing." And they all just stared at me like I had a dick growing out of my forehead, right? And I'm like, "What?" I can't be the only guy that ever thought that. And then they go, "What's a garrote?" And I smiled and I went, "I think I'm going to love working here." Well, I didn't know how to act when I went in, and I told my wife, I said, "People are going to want to talk to me, and I don't want to talk to them." And she said, "You know what? Throw a smile on your face." Said, "Fake it till you make it." So I went in and I threw a smile on my face. And a year in, I worked there for almost 10 years. And a year in, people started saying to Shauna and my wife and other folks, how nice I was and what a sweet person I was and how I was the nicest person they'd ever met. I'm not kidding, right? Yeah, see that I had the same uh reaction. And at first I was actually kind of pissed off about it. Like, I'm not nice. The fuck are you saying? Me? You know, I'll let's go outside. I'll scuff you up a little bit. We'll see how nice you think I am. You know?
Unless you're one of those legs that got you.
But then I started realizing that I kind of liked being known as the nice guy. That it was okay not to be an asshole. So it was the persona that was the hardest thing to give up.
Now, do you feel like civilian life has ever felt too quiet to be safe? And like the silence um had its own kind of danger towards you?
It still does. There are very real dangers out there. Okay, it's not paranoia to be prepared. There are very real dangers around us. The world is not all, sunshine and rainbows. I do have issues with hypervigilance that I'm working on with my talking doctor. I got one of them talking doctors, you know. Um
And for those that don't know what a talking doctor is, it's a therapist.
well, yeah, it's a doctor that you talk to, so it's a talking doctor, you know. I mean, shit. But yes, a therapist, you know. I got one of them psychopathogists too,
There you go.
you know. But yeah, uh yes, the world uh does seem like a scary place sometimes, not to the point now, now, thanks to my talking doctor, not to the point uh where I don't feel I can live in it, but it pays to be vigilant, but not psycho vigilant. And I'm learning not to be that way.
What's something that the military never prepares you for but should?
Civilians don't think the same way that the military does. It is difficult to reintegrate into the civilian world because it is almost, for a lot of people, not everybody, but for a lot of people, it's like a different species. It's actually more difficult than liberals and conservatives getting together. You know what I mean? The Because our understanding of the world is different from folks who have not um, walked in our shoes, and their understanding is different from folks who haven't walked in their shoes. You know,
So now, as you talk about that, how would you explain to others that not all battles end on the battlefield?
Not all battles end when the war ends. Um,
Yeah.
is that for soldiers or civilians?
Anyone. So when you're describing basically, so it's more of the mental health aspect type question. When it's all said and done, and people think that, hey, once war's over, like you should be done. Like you shouldn't be thinking about this or whatever. How do you explain to them that just because the war's over, not all the battles are over? Like we're still fighting demons, we're still fighting all of these secondary feelings of being in combat and the exposures that we've been through.
Well, it's not just the exposures, and uh, I I I have had that conversation with folks who do not understand what has happened for service members. The thing that I would tell folks is let's take a dog. You train a dog to hunt, and the dog knows that when you take it out duck hunting, that it goes to where the duck went down and it picks up the duck and it brings it to you. Duck's dead, so the dog doesn't have to be real gentle with the duck. You know, can't rip his head off, but it doesn't have to be real gentle with it. Well, you've trained that dog so good that it goes and it gets the duck every time. Then you take it over to somebody's house and they got ducks. And it goes over and it snatches a duck by the neck. Why would anybody be surprised that that dog snatched that duck by the neck? When you train a soldier to endure the hardships that must be endured in combat, I'm not just talking about training them to kill. Everybody talks about a killing machine and breeding psychopaths and crazy shit like that. I'm talking about training them to endure an austere environment where they know that at any moment that their light could be put out, where they know at any moment they could lose a friend, a comrade. At any moment they could get a letter from home that their wife or husband is leaving them, or they've lost somebody that they love and they're thousands of miles away, and you train them to endure those conditions. It's not just fighting and killing, it's enduring a life that is difficult on the psyche.
As you mentioned that, what is one thing that you wish civilians understood about the mental war that follows a soldier?
We lose a piece of ourselves. It's not something we can't regain, but it takes time and patience to try and understand. It's not like a normal job where you go to work, you come home, you bitch about your boss to your wife or your husband, and you go to bed and you get up the next day and you do the same thing again. The the things that we experience as soldiers, as service members, as warriors, cause us to lose a part of us. And while that part is recoverable, it does take time and patience to get it back. and it takes work. And we need people to understand that they don't have to understand what's going on with us, but they do need to understand that patience and an attempt to understand goes a long way.
So now, what do you think we as society still get wrong about helping veterans heal?
I think we're cracking the code, Matt. I think we're getting a lot better. You know, you look at um, organizations like Wounded Warriors. I know they got a bad rap at the beginning, but they do a lot of good. In fact, the Wounded Warriors helped me in just exponential ways. Actually, that's not the right way to say that, but they helped me in ways that helped me improve exponentially in a short amount of time. Um, Tunnels to Towers, that and that's just two. There are so many programs out there. Um, our federal government, the VA, is finally being turned around and is doing so much more. I just got back into the VA system myself. I've been using civilian care. Um, the VA system now, as opposed to 2007 when I retired, is in my area anyway, is like light years ahead of what it used to be.
And that's good
Um,
because there's many areas where the VA is still understaffed. They're not necessarily equipped to assist a good portion of the veterans that are in those areas. But I think with where things are going, it's getting better. But at the same time, like having had not so great VA healthcare, like I'd much rather be seen through community care.
I agree, and I've been there myself. As it turns out, I live far enough away from Fayetteville to where the VA allows me community care. And the doctor that I've been seeing for 10 years, I just found out is a VA doctor. He's a VA, he takes VA patients. And
Right.
I just got him as my primary. And I love the guy. Absolutely love him. Um, and but I think society is is starting to crack the code. Um, are there things that we could do better? Absolutely. Are we losing too many veterans to illness, to suicide, to homelessness, to violence? Yes. But, when I think back to when I was a kid and the veterans in my family and now, I honestly believe that we've made light year strides. The changes in the federal government as far as veterans are concerned that have been happening recently, um, if we can continue to have folks that are dedicated to that, I think it's only going to get better. Um, and
Now, to touch on that, what kind of support system do you believe could actually save lives for those transitioning out today?
family and friends. There is nothing like family and friends for a support system. But the service member has to be open to it. You know,
That's half the battle right there.
it is. Uh, I had some really dark days after I retired. Um, and it was
Um,
only my family and friends who brought me out of it.
as you say, you had some dark days. If you're comfortable with it, what would you say the darkest headspace you've ever been in, and what pulled you out?
September of 2009, 2 years after I retired. I'd been in the wheelchair for almost 3 years. I'd gained 100 pounds from the last time you saw me. I sat upstairs in my computer at my computer. Uh, I didn't even go to bed. I'd just sleep in the chair at the desk. And I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I cut off my best friends. I would have cut off my family, but they were right there and wouldn't leave me alone. Shauna, her mother lived with us. She had left her home to come and take care of me so that because Shauna was trying to pursue her career in the army and take care of me at the same time. The my best friend in the world, he was my first platoon sergeant when I joined the army, and he's been my best friend for 38 years. He had a pig picking every Labor Day. It was a birthday party for all three of his boys because all their birthdays were around then. And I didn't go. And Shauna came home. She went. She came home and she told me that it really hurt his feelings that I wasn't there. Um, he has never said that to me because he don't talk about feelings and shit like that. He joined the army in 1973, or 1971 or some shit like that. He's really old. Anyway, when she told me that hit him so hard, um, something kind of broke in my mind. Right after that, Shauna went to the MP ball, and she tried like hell to get me to go, and I wouldn't go. And she went, and she said everybody was asking after me, and I felt really bad about not going with her, and that kind of finished that break in my mind, and I realized that I had gotten into such a depression that I was no longer living, I was just existing. And and that's what snapped it out of me. It was my family and friends that uh that pulled me out of that deep dark hole. And then the next year I ended up getting fixed. My back got fixed, and then I finally in 2011 got off all the drugs that they had put me on, and the rest went uphill from there.
So now, if you could speak to a soldier sitting in that dark place that you were sitting in, what would you say to him or her?
We can't ever see the results of our decisions, the results of the decisions that we never made. If we could, we would go insane. Every decision we've made has had good and bad, positive and negative influences on our life, whether we can see them or not. All we can do is the next right thing. It doesn't matter how many times we stumble. If we have the will to do the next right thing, the path is there for us out of that hole. There is someone around us who cares about us, that will help us, that will lend us a hand, that will help us on that path. But we have to have the will to walk it. You deserve to walk that path. All you have to do is grasp it, and that hand will guide you.
And I couldn't agree with you more there. Ron, thank you so much. Where can everyone find you on social media?
Well, I'm on Facebook, Ron Bullet Underwood on Facebook. I just got Snapchat account. It's Ron Underwood BUL or something like that, and I got a Instagram account. I think that's Ron Underwood BU or B or BUL or something like that. I haven't done anything with him. I've got a 12-year-old boy, and he's wanting to get into social media, and I gotta learn this stuff. So uh, now I got 3 social media accounts. Um, and if anybody wants to hook up with me, send me a message on Facebook. I'll send you my number because I'll call you. I do that,
Old school. I love it.
especially when I'm drunk on a Friday night.
There you go. Which I have yet to get.
I was gonna call you, but when I was drunk last Friday night, but I was on the phone with somebody else. So
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough, because I think you and I were texting while you were on the phone.
Well, I can multitask. That's
There
that
you
new
go.
word. Yeah. For being able to do more than one shit at one time. Yeah. Yeah.
There you go, my brother. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Everyone, thank you so much for joining in. Have a good night.
Have a good night. It was my pleasure and my honor. And so happy to see you doing so well, man. Take care,
Likewise,
folks.
brother.